This animation is looking at fertilizers. What are the main components or nutrients, the different types of fertilizers, application methods, and some general tips. So looking at a fertilizer label, you will see that most of them list a ratio on the front. This is the ratio between nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, otherwise known as NPK. N, or nitrogen, is primarily responsible for the growth of leafy or vegetative parts. It is vital to plants, being the main component of chlorophyll, as well as being a building block of plant and animal proteins. P, or phosphorus, is important for root development and seed production. It's also a major component in plant DNA. The role of K, or potassium, is far more diverse. It increases root growth, encourages sturdy stems and disease resistance. It's used in the formation of sugars and starch, helps regulate water use, and activates enzymes within the plant. The ratio of these three elements is usually listed on the fertilizer label in one of two ways, either as a percentage or as a proportion. For example, 20% N to 5% P to 10% K can be listed by percentages or reduced to its proportions 4 to 1 to 2. The ratio of NPK in a fertilizer can be balanced, or it can favour one element over another. An example of a balanced ratio would be 5 to 5 to 5. A ratio that favours phosphorus, for example 5 to 7 to 4, is good for root development. This is really important for root vegetables, woody plants, flowers, and citrus. A ratio that favours nitrogen, for example 10 to 6 to 4, is good for stem veggies, leafy plants, and foliage plants, including grasses, herbs, and lettuce. Applying nitrogen can encourage plant growth over flowers and fruit. So, when you're selecting a bloom fertilizer, you would look for a ratio that is lower in N. The secondary elements include sulfur, calcium, and magnesium. These are important at a cellular level for things like cell wall strength and chlorophyll. Trace elements or micronutrients are also necessary for plant growth, but they're only needed in small amounts. The essential micronutrients are boron, copper, iron, chloride, manganese, molybdenum, and zinc. This is an example of a nutrient analysis chart. As you can see, the rates of trace elements are up to 100 times smaller than those of the amounts required of the primary and secondary elements. There are a broad range of fertilizer types available. The main ones are slow release and control release pellets, pelleted manures, blended NPKs, liquid or foliar fertilizers, and tonics or soil conditioners. As with any chemical, you should always read the label and apply at the recommended rates. Fertilizers should be applied to the root zone in the root area. In fruit trees, this means at the drip line, not at the base of the trunk. In potted plants, it should be mixed in with the potting media near the bottom of the plant, where the roots will grow. Liquid or foliar fertilizers need to be sprayed on until runoff. That means until the spray starts to drip off the leaves. All fertilizers need to be watered in well and applied either in the morning or late afternoon to avoid chemical burns to the plant. Some native plants, but not all, are sensitive to phosphorus because Australian soils are inherently low in phosphorus. Plants to be careful with include banksias, grevilleas, and acacias. In these cases, a low phosphorus fertilizer should be utilised to reduce the risk of toxicity. If you wish to use organic products on these plants, stay away from the mushroom compost and the manures, as they tend to have higher levels. Instead, try something like blood and bone or composted bark. Ferns, orchids, and many Mediterranean plants often require less fertilizer naturally. Use specific fertilizers for the plant type. Just remember, many carnivorous plants do not tolerate any fertilizer at all. Once again, check the fertilizer labels and ensure what you are applying is suitable. Soil pH is linked closely to nutrient uptake. Plants tend to grow in a pH range of between 5 and 7. In general, the greater the acidity, the less available the macronutrients are for plants, so the NPK and the secondary nutrients. But the more available the trace elements or the micronutrients are. A pH between 6 and 6.5 is generally able to access most nutrients. Fertilizers have the ability to alter the soil pH, as does decomposed organic matter, so check your soil pH to ensure that it's in a suitable range. Soil health refers to the overall state of the soil to maintain plant and animal productivity and to maintain things like water quality, ecosystem function. It's about managing soils as a living, dynamic and fertile growing medium. The addition of pest and disease-free organic matter can provide aeration, increase microbial life and lead to a healthier soil. A pelleted or liquid fertilizer will not provide these things and should be considered quite separately.